Yo, what's up, people? I'm your host, Jay Will, and I would like to welcome you to Inspire God's People, where we balance faith and business to guide you to your purpose. This is episode 219. What is it called? Music, business, and ministry. I got a guest today, Courtney Moore, that I'm going to be talking to. She is an entrepreneur, a worship leader, a singer, producer, but she's the founder and CEO of the music firm in Detroit. The music firm Detroit is located in Livonia. And we're going to talk about her business. We're going to learn a lot about her journey. She is, like I said, a minister. So she's been involved in the church world, in the music world, in the business world. And y'all know this show is all about balancing faith and business. I've watched Courtney from afar, and I could tell you she carries herself really well. Her business is a very dope business and something that I'm like, man, once I get back into music a little bit, I need to find a way to get myself over there to the music firm in some capacity. But I'm looking forward to diving into her story today. As y'all know, in general, with Inspire God's People, we've been talking a lot about death to poverty. So you can look forward to that type of content to continue to come, as well as, you know what I'm saying, following us on YouTube at Inspire God's People. But look, we're going to dive into this conversation today, man. And I want y'all to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But today is all about learning about Courtney Moore and her journey through faith and business. So without further ado, my people, Courtney Moore, what's up? How you doing, sister?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Welcome to Inspire God's People. I know that it's a Monday, busy day. Are crazy, so I got you here on a Monday, but we gonna have a good time. I'm gonna jump right into this, Courtney, and kind of diving into a little bit of your story. We talked a little bit off air, and like the fact that we're both in Detroit on the music scene. Sounds like we probably been around each other, but never really officially met. So this is really dope, like to actually get to meet somebody that I just have seen on the internet and probably been around in real life at different events. So nice to meet you, Courtney.
Nice to meet you too. Nice to meet you too. And thank you again so much for having me on your show tonight.
No doubt.
I'm so happy. I'm just happy.
No doubt. So, look, you do a lot of things from music, ministry, and business. I want to start. Let's start on the ministry side, right?
Okay.
Like, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Just, did you grow up in church, or were
hmm
you someone that kind of like, grew up, out here in these streets and then had to find the Lord? What was that journey like for you? Just, coming to the Lord, and what's your journey like been just in ministry itself?
So I grew up in church. My mom was back in like the late 80s, early 90s. She was prevalent in music ministry, singing around different churches. And um, so when I was 3 months, she had me like going around churches with her, because she like, look, this is what I do. I'm not
Right.
about to slow down. So I'm about to be carrying this baby with me everywhere I go. And
All right.
so, I mean, music ministry was just embedded in me. Ministry was embedded in me. But more so, my mom taught me how to worship God. She taught me the elements of worship. She taught me the beauty in corporate worship. And one thing she would always tell me, um, back in the early '90s and stuff, it wasn't prevalent, for a lot of. That's when the church was kind of making the transition into like the prophetic sound and to worship and everything from, the traditional sound. And one of her biggest things was she even, would send me to, multicultural schools and stuff like that. Her biggest thing was when we get to heaven, there's going to be all kind of people in heaven. So her biggest thing when it came to worship with me was making sure that she developed a sound in me that could reach all people. So and it started really really early with
No
my
doubt.
mom for me. Yep, really 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 early. You know how you a church kid and you stray away and you do your You
That's
know,
true.
you
That's
do
true.
your stuff and you straight. I mean, come on, I strayed
For sure.
away. Don't want to listen and don't want to, do all that kind of stuff. But truly, I am a product of train up a child in the way that he should go, she should go, and when he is old, she is old, they will not depart. So, I am a product of that, and I've been in the church all my life. I come from Greater Ebenezer under the Murphys. So that's definitely, where we've crossed paths before,
Yeah.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
And as you know, that church or that family is very big in worship and music and stuff. So it was just it just happened with me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay.
it was just bound to kind of happen. It just fell on me.
I love that. Like,
Yeah.
so I got two follow-ups to what you just said. Like, the first
Mhm.
thing I'm curious about, this is like a
Mhm.
little, maybe sidebarish or whatever,
Mhm.
but it's interesting to me.
Mhm.
That small lesson your mom taught you
Mhm.
about worship and how
Mhm.
heaven will be in reaching all people.
Mhm.
How has that impacted you just as you've grown through life, right? Did you say you went to
Yep.
multicultural
Yep.
schools and things like that? Can you
Yep.
tell me a little bit like what was that like and how has that impacted you having those multicultural experiences and maybe that perspective, how has it, impacted your life?
It was tough growing up. It was definitely tough growing up because although that's the way my mom was, at some point in my childhood, she became a single parent. So she relied heavily on my grandmother and my grandfather. And my grandmother is from Mississippi and my grandfather is from Tennessee. So he's like, I don't trust these kind of people. I don't know why you got to
Yeah.
go here. I don't know why you got to, So it was difficult. But my mom saw who I would, one day become. And so even with her making the decision to send me, and not just me, but my sister as well, but to send us to multicultural schools, it was just to cultivate what she knew we would be, what she knew we would become. And so it was very, very, difficult living almost in two different cultures because at church, all my friends are black. You know
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And at school, you know what I'm saying? It's only two or three of us. I just did not fit in. It was just, it was quite a time. But I wouldn't take anything for my journey. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the experience because it has really blessed me to be able to, know the heart of all people. And when we're talking about worship, primarily corporate worship, I think sometimes that's where we not miss it, but it would be to our benefit that we understand um, the heart of the people so that it's easier for us in corporate worship to get people all on one accord. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Understanding, if I understand your heart, and I think that's what we're seeing in things like Maverick City and Chandler Moore, and we're seeing this intertwining. Travis Green with Elevation Worship, we're seeing these sounds kind of intertwine, but that's because we've got two different cultures or two different backgrounds really getting to understand each other's hearts and understand how we worship, because that's the
and
biggest thing. I'm
and
sorry.
what better place? No, you good. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, that's great. Like, it's like, what
Mm-hmm.
better place? And I love that because I believe as the church, we should be leading
Mm-hmm.
like the narrative in the world. And I think that's
Mm.
a powerful narrative of like to have, think of heaven on earth, right? Like, think of that concept of like versus only reacting to the negative side. We know the
Mm-hmm.
things that happen. And, look, my grandma, one of my grandmothers is from Alabama, another one from Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Two of my grandmas from Alabama actually, and
Mm-hmm.
so I understand. I think sometimes we don't take a step back and actually think about where their perspective is coming from. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we just take the baton and carry it, but there are
Mm-hmm.
elements of like, yo, I get it, grandma in
Mm-hmm.
Alabama. In the 1940s, like that's a wild time. I would never argue you. Like I
Mm-hmm.
need to push this forward, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's dope what your mom did for you because I'm sure as a business person, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
as you've grown, like you have to be
Mm-hmm.
able to reach and connect with other cultures and people, both in ministry and in business. That's why I love business because it's not a bubble. Because
Absolutely.
otherwise you kind of stuck in a bubble. So that's pretty dope that your
Absolutely.
mom kind of took that route with you.
Yep.
And then, when you talk about like growing up in church, I'm curious because I grew up in church too.
Hmm.
Like, what do you think for you?
Hmm.
What's the pro and what's the con of that experience? Not that you would ever like. I don't have
Yeah,
kids, but
yeah.
like, not that I would never tell my kids like, oh, because of the cons, I don't want you to grow up in church. No, I'm just saying from having that experience, I have in my mind a couple pros and cons. I'm curious how you feel just going through that experience and, like you said, kind of wavering in and out and everything like that. Like, what are the pros and cons in your life of that experience?
So one of the cons for me, and this is a con that I'm praying to just be completely released from, is thinking that the four walls or the church that I'm at or the churches that I'm connected to are the world, and that's it. So
Yeah,
we don't understand life outside of the church. We don't understand certain levels of professionalism. We don't understand business, or we don't understand, um, a lot of other things because we've become so. Our mindset is just church, church, church. Outside of church, we don't know how to. It's almost like we create this hub. I don't want to call it cult or nothing like that, but we
yeah, yeah.
create like this.
It's a
It's like
bubble for sure.
we're secluded. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and then we have that secluded mindset, and we don't know anything outside of church and the people that we're with. Even relationally. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the biggest cons that I see, and um, I believe that it's also one of the reasons why God thrusted me into the music firm the way that He did, and I know we'll probably get
For
to
sure.
that in a minute. So I don't want to move ahead of you. See, here go to church in me coming out. You see what I'm saying? It's
Oh
I
man.
I will never forget my first real job. Like my first dopest job was with U of M, and it was like my first professional job. I was a patient care tech for a vein clinic, and it was the most prominent vein clinic in the region with the best vein doctors ever. Shout out to Dr. Emily Cummings, Dr. Lisa and Matangelo now. Shout out to y'all, but they're still my friends. Shout out to
Yeah.
Valerie, y'all. What's up? What's up? What's up? But the best job that I ever had, and I'll never forget. I was talking to one of the young ladies that worked with me, and I said, absolutely, because if I'm breaking bread with you, then you must mean something to me. And she just was like, what? She was
Like,
like,
how did
what
you
are
break
you
the bread,
what are
sis?
you talking about? Like, what?
Oh man.
So it's like, and I knew then, like, this is just, I'm too churchy. Like, I'm too I'm
Yeah.
God can't you even use me here because I am just too in this bubble.
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest cons. The biggest pros will always be, and I'll say this, some of my best friends are in the church. I mean, them
Yeah.
school friends, they came and they went. But them church friends, when you grow up in church and you got them people that are not your biological aunties, but they your aunties and I'm sorry, your uncles and aunties, but they are your uncles and aunties.
Yeah.
They remain that for forever. So one of the pros for me has been the relationships, that I have, developed by being born and raised in the church. I mean, you just don't get that kind of kindred, that family, unit. Um, it's been a beautiful thing, and it's something that I even encourage my friends or other people, like, hey, those church, somebody said covenant, yeah, those covenant relationships, those covenant relationships, those Carla Boo, what's up? Yeah, so I mean, I
Yeah, no, that's dope. So both of
yeah.
those, just like going back to the con a little bit, I think
Mhm.
I couldn't agree more, right? Like,
Mhm.
so, the interesting thing for me too, personally, I grew up in both home church
Mhm.
and, traditional church, being
Mhm.
between my mom and dad's homes.
Mhm.
And so, like, how home church is completely different than traditional church. And so, to
Mhm.
your point of culture, right? I
Mhm.
kind of related to people who are bilingual. I'm
Mhm.
so intrigued. Like, I was in Mexico a
Mhm.
couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
and I watch a lot of YouTube videos because I'm trying to learn Spanish, like, in my spare time, just on like YouTube or something. It's not going
Mhm.
well, by the way, but like,
Keep
I
at it,
don't
my
want to.
brother.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to get the impression to nobody that I'm actually doing a good job with it, but
Mhm.
it's happening. And so, but I relate, like, the church experience and culture to, like, somebody who's bilingual.
Mhm.
When I was in Mexico, I had what did I say to this? I don't know if it was just hola or whatever. It was something basic that I said to one of my waiters, and
Mhm.
his eyes lit up, and he was like, "Oh, Espanol." I was like, "No." Like, don't get
Mhm.
excited. And so my
Right.
point though is, like, that's kind of how we are when we grow up in church sometimes. And this ain't like, hopefully people take it for the context of what we saying. One
Right.
of the cons, right?
Right.
Whereas you grow up and you learn church and you
Mhm.
know it and you know how to
Mhm.
navigate it,
Mhm.
but then the rest of the world, sometimes you have to be bilingual, and it
Mhm.
doesn't mean you have to do the things the world does,
Come on.
but you need to know how to navigate the
Come
world,
on. You
right?
have
And
to. Come on.
some of us can't even minister to people or grow professionally or whatever, or grow our own businesses without that crutch.
Mhm.
And the one thing I'll say there too is, like, the one trick the one tricky thing about church is it also produces a lot of opportunities. So, like, my family, my brothers, a lot of my family work in church.
Mhm.
So that can be a crutch, because if your salary coming from this place and
Mhm.
your position, everything, you almost don't have to operate outside of the church sometimes,
Nope.
and so it can limit you. But then I also agree with the pro, right? And it's kind of
Mhm.
weird they go hand in hand. The
Yeah, it is kind of
relationships, the
weird.
opportunities, right? That you have is
Mhm.
is kind of dope, kind of cool.
Mhm.
Um, Shout out to the people showing you love out in the comments. Um, yeah, you just definitely dope to have you. So, learning a little bit about your background, obviously,
Mhm.
just in ministry, knowing that you
Mhm.
grew up in church,
Mhm.
kind of talked about, like, wavering away. All right,
Mhm.
I'm curious what you think about this. This is one
Mhm.
of my cons when it comes to growing up in church,
Mhm.
and it's gonna maybe sound weird.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'm jealous of people who got saved when they were older, and here's why. Like, when you grow up in church and you go through those experiences of wavering and, like, those struggles, there can be a lot of pressure, because a lot of times you were already in church, you already know the Lord, so that guilt and, like, that falling away and that backsliding is, like, it's hard to deal with, versus, like, somebody who just out here wilding out, and then it's like, oh, I'm 25, you know what, I love God, and they kind of get that fresh start of, like, not saying they won't ever go through that too, but I don't know if you feel that way, if it was hard for you when you were making mistakes, maybe the pressure, reputation, family, like, it's so much that comes with trying to uphold the responsibility of what people think of you sometimes when you are a good person growing up in church.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that has been, I mean, the Bible says all have sinned, fall short of his glory. So
Yes.
that has been, my testimony on my journey, as I have, fell short in areas, when you fall short and you finally decide, okay, this isn't the path that I'm supposed to be on, and the Lord starts reeling you back in, you kind of do look up and you be like, wow, I'm kind of envious of those that, you know, live their life and now they're 30. They are, oh, thank you, Jesus. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, but they done got a chance to club. They done got a
Right.
chance to date and, do what they wanted to do. They got a chance to freely, explore life and live life. And so I think, our biggest thing is balance and really understanding balance, and I hope that's something that we can do for this generation is instilling them as much as we instill, the church principles and the principles of God and everything, that we also instill different scriptures that, are in Ecclesiastes that talks about, nothing new under the sun. And because there's nothing new under the sun, there's no time to waste. Live your life, have fun. Those types of things should be preached, within reason, so that enviness, that envious, or that time where you are kind of looking like, well, dang, shoot, I'm trying to recover all, and this person, absolutely, I've been there
Yeah.
so many times. It's tough too when you come into the realization that God does want you to be happy, and God
Yeah.
does want you to enjoy. He said, I put these things here for your benefit, you know. Um, so, and that's a whole another topic. But
Yeah, no,
yeah,
but it's a good point, right? I love that
yeah,
you said balance, because to me
yeah.
that's the thing that sometimes get missed.
Mhm.
We have to give each other grace, but
Mhm.
there's obviously a thin line between like nobody saying we want to promote sin, and I think that's what's
Mhm.
tricky, because
Mhm.
what I notice is a lot of people live on extremes. So
Mhm.
they're either like, man, it's like they believe you should do everything, or it's like, hey, do nothing. And I
Right.
do think we have to find a way within the biblical context. I do think there's a way to kind of have that balance
Mhm.
without going too far, having
Mhm.
discernment, knowing when you're going too far.
Mhm.
Look, that's the beauty of life. Life is not this black and white, so
Yeah.
easy to navigate.
Yeah.
There's gonna be things that you have to struggle through, whether you grew up
Yeah.
in church or not.
Absolutely.
That was just one of those random things. So for you, like, okay, we heard a little bit about kind of life in ministry. I'm really
Mhm.
curious um how you got, let's go music, because I know you played a lot of instruments. You done everything from
Mhm.
produce. I believe
Mhm.
you're a worship, or no, you're a lead musician now.
Mhm.
So just
Mhm.
talk about like your life through music and how you've
Mhm.
navigated and grown, and maybe share some of those experiences, because it sounds like you have quite a few musical experiences,
Yeah.
that have probably shaped who you are today.
Wow. Um, I've always, now don't get me wrong. My mom, is my musical hero. She was a Wayne State music major. She actually majored in liberal arts, but minored in music. And so when it got time for me to go to college, I'll say this and then I'll come around and answer your question.
For sure.
She said, "Now look, you want to do music, but I'm telling you now, you are not cut for Wayne State music department, okay?"
Wow.
Because
Okay.
you got to study. She said it's like going to med school. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send you to this Christian school. I said,
I
here
love
we
it.
go again. It's multicultural. I think she always thought that I was gonna be an artist or something, or she just always saw bigger, and
Love it.
always tried to push for that. But with that being said, with her being one of my biggest musical influences, she made sure that we were, that we reached other people, other races of people. But my mom made sure I understood the importance of other genres of music.
Okay.
So, um, I am a lover of music. I love music. Okay. It was my mom that introduced me to Motown. It was my mom that introduced me to Mozart, Genopody. It was my mom that introduced me to the Hawkins family. It was my mom that introduced me and told me the story of Maddie Moss Clark and the Clark sisters, and how she tried out for the choir, and all these different things, and
Love it.
all these different stories about the maestro coming up, and how my bishop, who is Bishop Murphy Jr., he and her, and they went to Wayne State together, and how they would be going around doing groups and choirs, and they was the baddest thing, And so it was my mom, and so she really is the reason why I love music so much. And so when I was younger, I was so just artsy. And I kind of wish I could almost get back to that, before life, start life and life start happening. I was so you know what I'm saying? I was so musical. I was so creative, and um, my love for music was so evident. I think it was more excused when I was younger, to be able to branch out. Oh my God, did y'all hear little Courtney? She playing listen as your day unfolds, challenge what the future holds. That kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just musical influences. Midnight Train of Georgia, and then don't let hip hop come out, not just Arrested Development. All of these just different things, until I start showing trouble in my teenage years, and she realized, okay, you going to sleep to this stuff, because I loved music. When I tell you I loved music, I loved it. Like, I would listen to something and cry. I love music. Like,
Right.
don't I
I feel
loved
you.
it. Like, I loved it. I would listen to something and it would just have me in a chokehold. And my mom, like, this, okay, this is a little bit unhealthy. And so I was showing some issues in school, some of them those bad days. And when I came home from school, I had all of these posters in my room, right? So I come home from school one day,
Mm-hmm.
and I go in my room, all the posters are in the garbage.
Love it.
All of my CD, all of my CDs, I'm still mad.
I love
All
it.
of my CDs are broken in the trash. And she's
Man.
like, we getting ready to change what you letting. Cause now I gotta be mama bear, and I gotta guard what's coming in your spirit, because your call is bigger than just music. You're not gonna just be someone that does music, but God's gonna use you, Courtney. And so that's one of my biggest wrestles to this day. When I get to that place, because I'm starting to get back there with music, where it's like, okay, because I'm mature enough spiritually, so it's like, I'm about to listen to Cool Like That. It's cool, like I'm about to, and the
I
Lord be
feel
like,
you.
you know what I'm saying? So,
I feel you.
I mean, I still wrestle with. I don't want to say wrestle, but there's the call to ministry. And you have, when you're called to music ministry, there's a difference. Some people are just called to music, but when you're called to music ministry, you have to protect what goes into your spirit. So that's been my love. That's been kind of my
I love it.
over the years. Um, when it comes to music, I did study music. I did go to the disc to learn studio engineering and production. She sent me there. Minored in music at majored in business, minored in music at Rochester Christian College in Rochester Hills, Michigan. Then I started to pursue a career in music therapy, and then God was like, "Nope, you got to do the firm."
Okay.
So,
You it's really dope. Like, first of all, your mother, that was a mastery level of parenting to me.
mm,
And that's not, again, I don't have children, but
mm-hmm,
I'm the oldest of 9 siblings.
mm-hmm.
So I've
Yeah,
seen a lot of
yeah.
parenting. I've seen a lot of parenting. So and I got 20 nieces and nephews. So
Woo!
yeah, a couple of my brothers, they got families of like 4 or 5, so that knock it out right there,
Right,
halfway.
right.
But shout out to my family. But my point is, like, that's a mastery level of parenting, because I just see it
Mm-hmm,
around me.
mm-hmm.
Seen my parents. They struggle with sometimes that balance of,
Yeah,
like, when
yep,
to just, like, when to get a little, show a little tough love to your children. And you
yeah.
said something super important
Mm-hmm,
about the need to protect your spirit when you are
yeah.
in certain positions.
Sure.
And I think as believers, that's one of the ways we have to mature.
Mm-hmm,
Not every message is a universal message. Meaning,
mm-hmm,
and what I mean by that is, like, you'll see somebody argue, like, well, what's wrong with this or what's wrong with that? Well, it's
mm-hmm,
like, well, it's no different than if I'm a doctor performing surgery,
mm-hmm,
then it's a big deal if I got Laffy Taffy on my fingers. But if
mm-hmm,
you just at Cedar Point, then do
mm-hmm,
what you will. You're not a doctor. You're not in
mm-hmm.
surgery. And when you are in ministry and you're
Mhm.
doing things at a certain level and with a certain intention where you want to have
Mhm.
that impact, you do have to guard yourself. And
Yep.
it doesn't necessarily even mean, like you said, you're struggling through it. I've struggled through similar,
Mhm.
like I can relate to that 100%
Mhm.
because um you want to be genuine and protected in what you're doing, and you also
Absolutely.
understand that the power of something, because if I'm
Absolutely.
creating something and I'm saying it's powerful over here, the in the Bible in Ecclesiastes 1 and 18, it's one of my favorite scriptures, and it
Mhm.
says with much wisdom comes much grief.
Mhm.
And people don't understand, sometimes when you have wisdom, you can see you can see where something leads, and it makes it challenging. So thanks for
Mhm.
sharing that. I believe that's gonna help somebody.
Mhm.
Now,
Mhm.
what can you tell just a little bit sidebar about, like, what instruments do you play or did you play, um, and did that come natural or was it like learned? Like, I'm curious, is this musical ability like your mom did music? You mentioned
So
having a
yeah.
sister. Is it like
Yeah.
family or is it just something you learned?
my mom my mom was the most musical person, in my family.
Okay.
The most musical person in my family. But as far as like playing instruments, it started off just in church, watching, I don't know why I was drawn to, instead of me being drawn to directing the choir, I'm drawn to the musicians. Ain't no other little girls by the
Right.
drums waiting on their turn to play, but I'm
Right. Right.
waiting on my turn like the other little boys, waiting on their turn to play the drums. And they would give me a turn, they would give me a
That's dope.
turn. And my mom saw that and she would, buy me instruments and different things. And the musicians at the churches saw it and they didn't treat me any different. And once I found out at an early age that I had an ear,
Yeah.
I would just pick up. I used to just carry a acoustic guitar around with me everywhere. And sometimes my mom be like, "Okay, you can't take that, Courtney." Not to where I'd be like, "Well,
Right. Right.
mama, why? Why?
Not to
You can't
Kmart.
you
Like,
can't take that, you're not about to just sit, somewhere and just fiddle on that." She used to just be so irritated with me, very peculiar kid. Very, if anybody on here remembers me as a child, very, very, very different. And you
okay.
know, um, so it started off with just fiddling on an acoustic, which I did not cultivate that, because if you know anything about um anything about playing an instrument, if you can't just devote your entire life to it, you better pick one that you
Right.
that you better on, or
Right.
the one that you love the most. And so piano for me, although I can play drums, I can play a little bit of acoustic guitar, I can play a little bit of bass, I can play the violin. um yep,
Oh,
yep,
you
I can
wildin'.
I can play the violin. What
I'm really
else?
sleeping on. I don't like. Do you have stuff recorded or something? No, I'm really sleeping on your musical
And
gift.
that, I
Now
mean,
I'm curious. I need
and
to hear some stuff.
I'm very like low key with it. It's,
Okay,
it's a little insecurity there, too, when it comes like to the other, instruments. But
I get it.
keys is my, like, you know my love. I love the piano. I love how it sounds. And so that's the one that just stuck with me. That's the one that's my main instrument.
And that's what you actively playing, right?
Yep, that's what I'm actively playing. Yep.
For sure, for sure. Shout out to
Mm-hmm.
everybody in the comments. Yo, I don't know if this is a family or friend. This Carla.
Carla,
She
tell
hit me with a don't. She hit me earlier. Hola, como estás? I'm like, oh, she hit me with the Spanish. She wild for that. But
that's classic Carla Boo.
I
Those
love
are
it.
those church friendships that I was telling you about. You
Yeah.
might not talk every day, but oh my
But when you do,
goodness, the love, the love.
you know what, on that line of thought too, because you
Mm-hmm.
talked a little bit about those relationships earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, I want to just kind of shine a light on something just with the church in general, a
Mm-hmm.
positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the church, it has so much opportunity.
Mhm.
that like you talk about that experience of sitting and waiting on the drums. It's like my brother
Mhm.
Jarrell, J
Mhm.
Rail Hits play the drums. Darius
Mhm.
started in drums.
Mhm.
My family, Dominique was singing, like
Mhm.
Mama Peggy sing, like my
Mhm.
father was choir director. So I grew up
Mhm.
around all that. And I
Mhm.
I played the drums in school. I never was a church musician, but
Mhm.
I know that feeling of watching my brothers wait. And
Mhm.
now my nephews, same
Mhm.
thing, like waiting to play the drums. And
Mhm.
one of the beautiful things about church is
Mhm.
it gives you an opportunity to find something you're good at. Like that's one of the
Mm.
positives of growing up in the church
Yep.
because you'll go to school
Yep.
and sometimes kids ain't doing nothing. Like you like in church, you like, oh man, I didn't by 12, I didn't already led songs in the choir,
Yep.
played drums,
Yep.
dance, spoke, mime.
Yep.
Like so it is that's one of the beautiful things about church culture growing up there. And then the other thing about Detroit church culture, and
Mhm.
I'm just thinking of this hearing you talk about
Mhm.
some of your experiences.
Mhm.
Like we really are in like gospel Hollywood. And it's like
Yep.
sometimes we don't realize like the richness of the people and the names and the talent, like just to
Yep.
grow up around all these people that, go out and make it and do big things in ministry.
Mhm.
That's one of the things I think Detroit don't get talked about enough of like the people who are from here in the music world
Mhm.
and the fact that like, we are friends and family with all these people. Like
Mhm.
that and they going out and traveling the world and major names. So I love that about Detroit where you like all the big gospel names like, oh yeah, I'm on the basketball team with this one, oh I grew up with
Mhm.
this one, I go to church with that
Mhm.
one. So that's super dope. um Transition a little bit into the business. Kind of you've heard about your background in ministry, background in music. Both of those are rich. You talked about going to college at Rochester College, which I,
Mhm.
I graduated from Oakland University, right around the corner from Rochester College. So,
Woo woo.
depending on what years we might have crossed paths in Rochester, I'm not gonna put us out there like that. But
Right.
um, talk about a little bit of the business world. Now you find yourself as the founder and
Mhm.
CEO of the music firm.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about how did that come about, and what your journey and ventures have been like in business in and of itself.
So, um, you talked about coming from a family of musicians or a family of people, excuse me, that are in music. I come from, although I don't come from a family of people that's in music, I come from a family of business owners.
Okay.
Business is engraved in my blood. Okay. So I love business. I love everything about it. I love the, economical um, principles of business. I live by them. I teach them. I teach my teenagers when they come in here for music. I find ways to intertwine business principles with the music. Is
Oh,
what I
you
do. I
you one of my
have
new favorite people now. Like this is you in my world. I love business.
I have a book out now. I wrote this in 2019, but it's out. I don't really advertise it probably like I should. But in here I have a whole chapter about my love for music. I mean, my love for business and the intertwining of music and just basic business principles that have nothing to do with money. Because if you know anything about business, money is just a result of, we ain't gonna go there,
No, I
but
love it. Yeah, no,
business. So business is in my blood. My father um was a business owner in the 90s. He owned homes. He and my uncle actually painted Baker's Bible bookstore when
oh
they
wow.
were laid off at the what Ford. So when they would get laid off, Ford would do their layoffs. They would go and they would they would go and do handyman work, because they just were so business minded. He owned homes. He was in real estate. Um, my mother comes from a background of business. My mom was a taxpayer advocate. So she would advocate for people that owe back taxes, more so in businesses that owe taxes. She would advocate for them. And then my family, we own a group home to this day, where
Oh
we
wow.
where we house um, women that have mental disabilities, and we have one here, and then one of my cousins have reached out and done an expansion in Arizona. So business is in
Love it.
my blood. I love numbers. I love everything about business. I remember one time I was standing in the you know how you go to a prophetic church and they do the prophetic presbyteries, and
Mm.
this one guy, I ain't gonna call no names. He was accurate, but I ain't gonna call no names. He goes, what do you do for a living? Here I am. I'm thinking I'm getting ready to get, a
Prophesy
word
too.
about, yeah, prophesy too about the piano, because, or
Right,
music or
right,
something. And he
right.
goes, I know you play the piano, but why am I saying you could have been an accountant?
Wow.
I used to I used to just take numbers on a calculator, just going. I asked
Love
my
that.
mom how to how to compute my own taxes at like 19, 20. So I've been computing my own taxes since I
Love it.
was 19, 20 years old. So business, the concept of business, I eat it, I drink it, I sleep it, I wake up to it. Sometimes I can't turn it off. It's just
Oh,
I
we might
can't.
be related.
Sometimes
Wow.
I can't turn it off.
Oh, that's
I'm
so
just
dope.
always just thinking of ways, you know.
I love that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't I don't meet many people that talk about business with a glow in their eye like you just did. But when I tell you like this is my life, like I literally love business. Business is so underrated and
Mhm.
like understanding it, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And the
Mhm.
principles. I'm curious for you, like where does that all right, obviously your father, your mother, like you've been around business in family business,
Mhm.
but like I guess I'll say this. For me, a lot of it is the principles that I think
Mhm.
that people overlook that come from business.
Mhm.
And you were about to make a statement, and maybe this is a better way for me to get the answer.
Mhm.
Ask this question.
Mhm.
You just said money is just a result of dot dot dot, and I want you to finish that sentence. Um, of what that means, and can you unpack that a little bit? Money is just a result of what?
Money is just a result of the resources that you create to generate it. That's all it is. That's all. Just because you get a lot of money don't mean you or that you're a business owner. Um, because you have to understand how to build. You have to understand how business is built, how it's framed. And if you have the mindset to understand how businesses are built, how they're framed, how they work, the money will be a result. It's just a result of
For sure.
how you framed and how you've built, your business. I see a lot of people nowadays, um, or nowadays, like I'm my grandma or somebody, but I see a lot of people, and we all do it to some extent. I've done it with this, but I've been convicted as well. We'll take, we'll get an idea, and we'll go get some t-shirts, we'll get a logo, but we have no business because we haven't started the framework. You know, we'll start working on those outside components, but we don't really know. And I'm going to steal this from one of my business mentors, Marcus Lemonis. You ever heard of Marcus Lemonis?
I haven't.
Okay, Marcus Lemonis. He goes by the three P's: process, people, and product.
Process, people, and
Process,
product.
people, and
All
product. If
right.
you do not have a process for your business, everything folds. If you do not understand the people that you're working with, that you're working under, that you're working for, your consumers, then your business will fold. And if you have bad product, so that can even be services that falls under that line of product. So if you have those amazing three P's, money, you don't have to worry about that. So I think we try to go after the bag with
Yeah,
no strategy. So that's why on my shirt I have the music firm, but on the back of it it says strategy secures the bag.
I love it. Um, I love that both in business and personal life.
Mm-hmm.
Because to your point, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people struggle because you said this is an important thing. Like
Mhm.
money is the result, right?
Mhm.
And when people chase the result,
Mhm.
they don't understand the input.
That's right.
And so if you do these things, like, I just did a show and and we don't have to unpack this at all because
Mhm.
it's super controversial, maybe especially on the surface. But I said
Mhm.
money does grow on trees, and I
Mhm.
have a whole anybody that want to check it out, go to
Mhm.
Inspire God's People on YouTube. I got a whole 20 minutes talking about how money does grow on trees, but the
Mhm.
mindset is just essentially that money is a seed and
Mhm.
seeds grow fruit of their kind. If you
Sure.
plant a seed in good ground,
Mhm.
it grows fruit of its kind. And so if
Mhm.
you focus on the planting and where you're planting and how you nurture it, that's like the parable
Mhm.
of the sower. Is like we
Mhm.
can have the same seed, but if you plant it in bad ground versus good ground, and I think
Mhm.
what happens to your point is that when
Mhm.
you don't have a strategy in business
Mhm.
or a process,
Mhm.
that's bad ground.
Yep.
Even if the idea is good, it's
Yep.
like,
Yep.
well, how are you going to do that? And I think a lot of people miss that. Why do you think and this is to hopefully help someone. I'm not
Sure.
asking this question to be
Absolutely.
negative, but
Absolutely.
what do you think it is that is blocking people from seeing that? So like, especially like in the church world,
Yeah.
where ideas, again, because of that opportunity and access, people just throw ideas
Mhm.
left and right, and we put God on it
Mhm.
without understanding business,
Mhm.
and it's like that's not gonna work.
Mhm.
But what's
Mhm.
blocking us? I'm trying to like break down that barrier. What would you tell someone
Mhm.
that has been having bad ideas? What are they missing in particular, um, to understand how to start a strategy?
I think they just don't. We just don't know, all of us, because there were, just times where I wanted to do different things and I just didn't know. I did not know that this idea is good. I've written the vision, I've made it plain, I've prokotaba, shokotai, I've done all that, I've shouted, I've,
Yeah,
stumped, I've commanded heaven, you know, and I've wrote the vision and I've made the vision plain, but we miss the church sometimes can miss the practical. And I think for the church, that's where we miss it. Okay, you've done everything on the spiritual side, but the practical, God is still very much so practical as well. You
yeah,
have to have a process for whatever you are going to build, whatever you're going to start. Like, for instance, if you want to start a group home, you have to have the licensings for that. You have to have the correct home. You have to be able to, know the right people. You have to know exactly what kind of people do you want to house. But then once you take it from there, you have to go through the processes. What's going to be your process for intake? Because what we do is we do that, and then we advertise, we get all of these great websites, all of these great different things, and when people start coming, we can't retain them because we have no process. What is your intake process? It's utter chaos because you're kind of learning as you go. And don't get me wrong, you're going to learn as you go regardless of where you are in business, but those processes that you put in place, they're built to secure and to make your business sustainable. It's
yeah.
the sustainability.
And look, I love that because sustaining something is important. Like we focus on obtaining. Like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, I want to obtain something, and you
Yep.
get it, and then
Yep.
you're like, all right, cool, I got this business now. I
Yep.
started, and we don't know how to sustain it, and then
Yep.
we end up just going from one thing to another because,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, we haven't focused on the education part, and that's
Right.
really what it comes down to. Is
Right.
I always tell people you have to respect. I respect the craft of anything I do new, whether I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
music, podcasts, and whatever it is. It's like I respect this craft. And I think my biggest thing about us as believers is we're in a very tricky world. And I'm gonna tell
Mm-hmm.
you, it's because we think when God tells us something, it means that all right, tomorrow you about to just the prophet said you're gonna be a business owner, and we start walking in that, but we not looking at the word.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph received his dream
Ooh.
at 17 years old. That
Yep.
didn't come into fruition until he was late 30s.
Yep.
David was anointed as a king at around 15 years old and didn't even touch the throne into his 30s. And so what
Yep.
happens is we get anointed.
Mm-hmm.
Like we fit in, oh, you anointed to do such and such. And we
Mm-hmm.
start walking around like we've been appointed. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
hold on, bruh.
Mm-hmm.
You anointed, but you still have to live life, grow, and be
Mm-hmm.
prepared and ready for that. So I love what you're saying about that, because I think that's what helps us. Again, this show is really about breaking down those barriers
Yeah.
and trying to help people um kind of see the trees through the forest,
Yeah.
so to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, tell us a little bit. You talk about the music firm. Tell us about what the music firm actually is. I
Yes.
printed it out because it's dope, but I want you to. I don't want to do it injustice. So I'll let you kind of explain the business. But I love what I see, both online, and we got the website is themusicfirmdetroit.com. So y'all, please make sure y'all go
Woo
check out the
woo.
music firm, and Courtney's gonna tell us why. What do y'all do, Courtney?
So I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always knew that I would be, some form of an entrepreneur. But I'm just so ever grateful that I can put my two loves together, music and business. I love them. So I'm enjoying the journey, although the journey has its ups and its downs. My God, but um, I'm doing what I love. I'm doing my passion, And with that being said, I started the music firm. So that awesome job that I was telling you about, U of M ended up closing our department. They
Okay.
ended up making the decision that they were going to just, because of U of M Hospital. So they made the decision that they were going to just take what we were doing and move the doctors to the hospital and use the staffing that were at the hospital. So we
Got it.
kind of all just either they put us in other clinics, or we just, they paid us for a month or so and was like, sorry, that type of thing. So it kind of pushed me into this place. But as we were, and I had always had a heart to train up, and to just, help musicians and singers um, kind of understand the balance between that music and that ministry type of thing. And people was just calling me out the blue, like, musicians assist, can we talk, can we talk? I'm consulting and I don't even know that I'm consulting. So
Yeah.
at that point, as my job was transitioning, I remember I would be asking for like breaks on my job so I can go and talk to pastors who was looking for musicians. And I noticed it's like, you're looking for a musician, but you're looking for a minister of music. You're not,
Yeah.
you're asking. So there it is, supply and demand. You can't get what you need because you don't understand your demand.
Yeah.
There go that business model again. You
Yeah.
don't, you
100%.
can't, your vision can't be supplied with what it needs because you're demanding the wrong thing. You're looking for a musician, and these musicians are not staying because now you're asking them or requiring them to sing, to preach, to do all of this, but you just hired them to be a musician. So, oh, okay, I'm a okay, come by my office. I got $150 check for you. That was, you just helped me. And I'm like,
Love it.
again, the money is just a result of
Yeah.
what you do. So I was like, is this a business? Like, this is something, this is a ministry, this is some type of ministry business. So I was I was already functioning, and so we were getting ready to transition from the job, and my manager, she was like, so Courtney, what are you going to do? And she was a Christian, she was a believer. I said, I don't know. I think God is calling me to like this music ministry consultant type of thing. And she said, I see it. You know what it should be called? I said, what? She said, the music firm. I said, yo,
Wow.
that is so dope. The next day, I gave her my 2 weeks. The next
Wow.
day, I gave her my
And what
two
year was
weeks.
this?
This was the end of 2015.
Wow. So
This was the
you
end.
over 8 years old.
Yep,
It'll be 9 years
yep,
at the end of this year. Wow.
yep,
Congratulations on
yep.
that.
Thank you. It was the end of 2015, and at that moment, it was just kind of still in this infant stages. And I was still functioning, still helping pastors, still, counseling or consulting with worship leaders and whatever, and kind of sending pastors what they needed and all that kind of stuff. And I went to my mom. Of course, I said, Mom, this is what I've been doing, and look what I got. She said, so you know what you got to do? You got to go down, to downtown. You have to register your business name. Once you register your business name, we're giving some goodies right now. We're giving some goodies. I'm about to tell you what you do. I'm about to tell you what you do. You go down with your city. You register that name. Once you register that name with your county, then you go to the IRS website and you get your EIN. You register your name. Once you register your name, you get your LLC. Once you get your LLC, now you are a business.
You got
and
a
so
business.
and that's what I did. That's what I did. The next day. And so at that point, after I did that, I went and got some brochures made. And at that time, I'm gonna get to where we are now. At that time, like I said, it was just kind of the music firm was like the music firm Worship Consulting. And it was just like I was more so kind of because I was in school pursuing my degree for music therapy. And so it was more so just doing piano lessons for people that wanted to play in churches but didn't have um, the musicians couldn't show them. So that's what the firm was about. It was just about lessons. It was just about doing consulting. Okay, so then we fast forward to the pandemic. And right before the pandemic, my mom drops a bomb on me and she said, Courtney, I'm sick.
Sorry.
I said, okay. I said, well, Mom, you always been sick, but you always, come through. She said, no, I'm sick. Said, I've got an incurable cancer, and I'm going to need you. And I came off my job and I stopped the firm so that I could take care of my mom. And, she paid my bills for me. I took care of her. And right at the beginning of the pandemic, I was still like, I had a couple of like little lessons because it's like, I'm the type of person, I'm not about to just let nobody take care of me, so I still had a couple of like little lessons I was doing virtual. And so my mom and I, we were back and forth hospital, back and forth, going through just so much in the pandemic, chemo, just all this just was crazy. And so she said, Courtney, she said, I'm gonna help you. She said, what I want you to do is, she said, this is what I see for the music firm. And she said, I got to do this. She said, I have to do this. This is my assignment. She said, you're consulting. But she said, the music firm is a firm. That means you're not just one thing. You're a firm. She said, you're a resource center. So she said, your music ministry is just an aspect of the firm. She said, but as you consult and as you send all of these pastors and tell them what they need to get for their audio and what they need to get for this, and you send them to the Guitar Center, she said, they need to be able to come to you and get everything under one umbrella. She said, so we're going to make this a firm. She said, I want you to go and I want you to find a spot. And I want you to find a good spot. And we're going to put the music firm, and we're going to do this. Wow. And so I was just like, okay, I had to move quick. I began to, at that point, again, we talked about that framework. We began to change from just in one vein to opening up to the world.
Wow.
Becoming a business or a ministry in the marketplace, not just, literally in the marketplace, not,
just in the church,
in the church, just in the background. Yeah, that type of thing, and so she said, I want you to find a place. Long story short, took her to one place. Her and my uncle, they didn't like that place. Took them to this place. She said, that's it. She said, this is the place. And so from that moment on, we got started. And so it morphed into us being able to connect our customers and our clients with instruments if they wanted to buy from us after we consulted, to us being, so what we are now, let me slow down, what we are now. So we morphed from there into what we have now. And what we have now is a music store. We have an online store. We do offer music production. We have a rehearsal space. We are more so on the production side. We're more so pre-production and post-production. We get like artists' songs ready for like the real producer. Some of the legwork. We help artists with some of the like the beginning stages. Um, Making sure that their songs are ready to be presented to the producer, making sure that the producer or the artist has scratch tracks for the producer to work with. That's more so what we are. We do have our music ministry program. We do music ministry consulting. I have done sound design. Again, I'm certified in that. My mom sent me. My mom sent me to the disc.
Love it.
She sent me to the disc. So although that's been, you know, 2008, still, it's a part of what we do. We also we do offer private lessons, and that's about it. So
Love it.
that's enough.
Yeah, no,
But
that's
and us being a firm, that's how we started. That's how we kind of morphed into what you see now. Again, we have a rehearsal space here. We have audio sales. We have we do private lessons, and we do some recording here.
look what I love the fact that, like I know your mom plays such an integrate part in your life in general,
Yeah,
and for her to have that impact on your business, right?
yeah,
Going from grabbing you when you were going too far in music,
yeah,
to then it was like kind of guiding you, right? And this
yeah,
show, like, I say it in the intro,
yeah,
we're here to guide you to your purpose,
yeah,
balancing faith and business to guide you to your
yeah,
purpose. And
yeah.
I think sometimes we overlook the need and the purpose of a guide. And I always
Mhm,
think about movies. Like
mhm,
I try to look for meaning in everything, like
mhm.
everything. And one of my favorite movies growing up was The Karate Kid. And I
Yes,
always
mine
tell people,
too.
oh, you feel me? Like I tell
Yes.
people like Mr. Miyagi was so dope because he was giving Daniel jewels, like straight gems in life, but it didn't look like it. So like when he
Mm.
had Daniel washing the floor and washing the car, painting the fence, and Daniel got frustrated, like, yo, I came here to learn karate.
Karate. Why am I
But
painting the
Mr.
fence?
But Mr. Miyagi was able to show him like it's the fence that teaches you
Yes.
karate, and it reminds
Yes.
me somewhat of what you said about money. Money is that result,
Yep.
and so many times again we have the focus on money from the stand in the negative sense. And I spend a lot of time on this show talking about finances from a healthy perspective,
Hmm.
but that negative, unhealthy perspective about money is to love it and look at it and chase it, and you'll do anything for it. But
Hmm.
if you focus on that purpose that God
Hmm.
created you for, and really focus on perfecting your craft,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can produce that. But it takes those guys. So I just want to say shout out to the guides out there, the
Yeah.
people who play a role in people's lives, to just kind of nudge them, or have them paint a fence, but you really teaching them karate. So I think that's really amazing. And I love what y'all do. Like, I know one of the things y'all do is like people can rent out a live rehearsal space, I
Yep.
believe.
Yep.
um
Yep.
that's
Yep.
dope to me. That was the thing that caught my attention, and I
Hmm.
haven't been actually been back to writing music myself a little bit lately, but
Okay.
I'm like, man, I just haven't been performing music at all. But
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I gotta find a reason to rent that space out, just because I love the concept of what you do. And just want to tell people it's in Livonia. So to
Yep.
our Metro Detroit area musicians and artists out there, I know that you need somewhere to rehearse for these gigs and these events that you have coming up. And this is the music firm Detroit is definitely something worth supporting and checking out. Not just because, I want to say this, a lot of times we talk about support,
Hmm.
like just the support, and it's like,
Hmm.
no, it's because it's dope. Like, it's because you have that strategy
Thank
and that
you.
plan. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that, and shout out to the people in the comments. Kenneth Hayes, he said that was the GOAT of teaching movies. I feel it. Facts. Um, Look, Courtney, I've definitely enjoyed talking to you today.
Yeah.
Before we
Yeah.
get out of here, if you could just tell the people out there what are some pros and cons of being a Christian entrepreneur and kind of wearing that, right? What kind of advice can you give out there for those either aspiring Christian entrepreneurs or those struggling with doing what God called them to do because the world make it look so much better just to like put your Christianity aside and go after that. What kind of advice or experience can you share that will be valuable to somebody in that position?
Well, the first thing I could say is something that God said to me, when I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm kind of out here. I'm a minister. Some people, they trying to elevate me to different things, and I got these secular artists coming in here to rehearse. I mean, I've had some prevalent gospel artists in here as well. But what do I do? And he said, Courtney, for God so loved the world. Not, and I think in the church, we hear like the world and it's derogatory.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's derogatory. It's like the world, don't be the world. But
Uh-huh.
for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whomsoever should believe on him shall have eternal life and not perish.
Okay.
So as a Christian entrepreneur, you have to love the world. And when we say the world, we mean the people.
Yes.
We don't mean
Yeah.
the the world in its demonic influences.
Right.
That's not what we mean. That's not what God so loved the world means. It doesn't mean that we love the kingdom of darkness that comes with the world. No, 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 no. But for God so loved the world, even the atheists, even the the rock star. I mean, I've had rock groups come in here. I had a student, that had Dark Side on his laptop. And I just asked him. I said, "What's up with Dark Side?" Well, that's just my DJ name, and that's just my this, and that's just my this. And I was able to minister to him, and I was able to, kind of just tell him, you know, what that what he was drawing to himself by having that on his laptop. And the next time he came to his lesson, he didn't have that. But I don't know if he would have got that from in the church. So it's like you have to know as a Christian business owner that God has called you to change the world. He's called you to impact the world and to make a difference. And that's just what I intend to do. I intend to make my mark on the world. That's what I intend to do.
I love it. I'm gonna tell you what's dope about that, right? Because these are things that I call necessary struggles. Like meaning,
Mm-hmm.
as believers, there are some
Mm-hmm.
necessary things that we should struggle through and
Mm-hmm.
gray areas in life. And I love the fact that you explained that clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons this goes back to the business and the
Mm-hmm.
being bilingual, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we learn the church way
Mm-hmm.
sometimes to a fault where we
Mm-hmm.
can't operate outside of it.
Sure.
Now, for me, one of the advantages that has helped me see this is again, partially being home church as I was growing up, because
Mm-hmm.
it kind of has church without, some of the extra things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm not saying is good or bad. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
different experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then also, I've been in corporate America since the day I graduated college,
Mm-hmm.
and so working at a Fortune, 100 company and kind of growing my career and working on, with various people, it
Mm-hmm.
has taught me the business side, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then understanding that a lot of business is about you
Mm-hmm.
being true to your brand. So the example
Mm-hmm.
I have is, let's say you work at a fast food restaurant and you're a manager.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a Christian and do that.
Yeah,
Now, you shouldn't be a Christian and do that if they would cause you to do something outside of your Christianity.
absolutely.
But you can give an atheist a piece of chicken, right?
Absolutely.
Like there's nothing sinful about that. And so I love what you kind of outlined in your business is because you are clearly Christian. I read your website, like it is there, right?
Yep.
And sometimes we focus so much on the people that we're ministering to that it's like, hey, like they not saved yet,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so, but we have to be careful about positioning ourselves, and I think some of us make excuses to put ourselves in positions that we can't handle. And I'm gonna say this,
Mhm.
be quiet. I always think about, like, a lot of times when people talk about these type of things, they
Mhm.
always talk about going out into the world, but they're
Mhm.
really talking about going out and doing things that they actually like doing, right? Like, it's like, hey,
Yep.
God called me to the club. Well, you in there dropping it too. So I don't think that's where he wants you. But
Right.
God
Right.
will call us to those places. I know people that go outside of abortion clinics and things like that. Like, the
Absolutely.
world needs ministry, but the
Yep.
world needs you to be a minister.
That's
And so
good.
many of us
Oh,
go
that's
out
good.
there and we're not ministers, and
That's
we
so
trying to,
good.
like, it's like, bro, you gotta, like, God could call you here, but sometimes he gonna call you places you don't like. We always think he calling us to the places we enjoy. Like, so I just love that you broke down, like, the fact that, like, hey, this is a business, and that's what I love about business, because it
Yep.
teaches you how to speak that language and to
Yep.
do it fluently in
Yep.
a way where you're not compromising your Christianity
Yep.
to service and provide this opportunity, but also meet and talk to people in the world. So thank you for sharing that. All right, Courtney, before we get out of here, what's I'll give you kind of the floor for any kind of last words that you want to share with God's people out there. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. And again, for anybody who's maybe catching this live towards the end,
Mhm.
this is going to be on Apple Podcast, Spotify. Really, I want you to go to YouTube at Inspire God's People. We share daily clips every day, every other day, whatever it is. To the people who watching on Instagram Live,
Mhm.
sorry, that's the one place I can't see your comments live. I kind of hate how Instagram does it, because I can't see the comments to the end, and then once the video ends, I can't respond to them. So I always see a bunch of comments and people talking on Instagram, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But Courtney, for you, before you get out of here, what is the last thing you want to leave the people with about, you, whatever message that you have to kind of inspire the world? If there was one last message that you were giving to people to inspire them, what would that be?
One last message I would say, always keep God as the center of your life, the head of your life, but follow your dream. Follow, well, not but in addition to that, follow your dreams. Follow your dreams. Go after it. Go after it. It's never too late. You're never too far gone. Go after your dreams. Go after what it is that you want to do, and don't stop. Don't stop.
I love
Don't
it.
stop.
Thank you so much, Courtney Cherie Moore. You have been a blessing to the show. Y'all check out the musicfirmdetroit.com. Follow Courtney on social media. Where can they find you? I got you at
Yep.
Courtney underscore Cherie on Instagram. Is that Instagram?
Yep, that's Instagram. And then for Facebook, it's just my name, Courtney Cherie Moore.
Y'all check out Courtney Cherie Moore and the things that
Woo,
she's doing.
woo.
Courtney, please do stay in touch. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you for, I saw a first time viewer down here, Don Michael Horton. Thank you for watching. Thank you for everybody in the comments showing love to Courtney. I saw your people was in here, showing a lot of love. So thank y'all for tuning in, and please do stick around. We got a lot more things like this coming, but this has been an amazing time. So y'all have an amazing